What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. Today, obviously, we're going to talk about all the Fanstoys drama. I'm going to give you my opinion on it, my thoughts on it, and some conspiracy theories if you're ready to dig in. I think I'm ready to dig in. I think that everybody's been talking about it. My inbox has been blowing up. People are saying that I'm secretly Fanstoys on TFW, etc., etc., etc. So at least we should talk about it, I think, in some regard today. I read that whole thread on TFW, by the way. That should hold me over for another 5 to 6 years or so. And we're going to talk more about that thread later on. Couple things first to go through in regards to cleanup. Last week's Sit Down Saturday, a lot of people understood the point that I was making. A lot of people entered in their little caveats. Well, I'm only mentioning the stuff that I'm buying. That's true, but not most third-party masterpiece collectors aren't buying every piece. They're buying the stuff to kind of fit their collection and go forward. That's like fundamentally the difference. That's why it works. That's why my point makes sense. But most people understood where I was coming from. There's still some people in there that just couldn't fathom the idea that they could ever buy anything that was over $20. No matter how much time, effort, and energy I put into trying to uplift you, trying to say that you can do it, you always get a handful that just won't have any parts of it. So I tell you what, sit your miserable, morose, unmotivated sloth ass in the corner and just be sad for yourself. There were some people on there that pretended to know my background. Let me tell you something. I would find it very difficult to believe that you could successfully navigate my life if you had to live it, let alone have the fortitude to persevere through it, in spite of what you think about me. But most people seem to get it, and that's what I'm saying. And like, that's the point. The point was that if you want to get into 3P, you probably can. You just have to shift how you do business. And if you're doing 3P, don't think that these folks over here are slouches because they're spending a lot of money. Don't think that you're better than them because you're spending more money on one thing. They're just spending more money on lots of things. It was supposed to be something like that, but there's always people that want to make it negative. But I'm not the one. Moving on to Moors. That's how you do it. That's the MMC that I love. When they get in their pocket, there's no stopping them. And that's them in their pocket. A lot of people that had the figure hit me up or commented in the comments that like, yeah, the lack of ratchets is really the only thing keeping this figure away from being like a complete home run. But a very, very solid effort. The Vader video, I had a lot of people hitting me up asking which Vader they should get as a result of that. I don't think that this one's a bad choice to get for your Vader. I know that the recent Figuarts one is really good also. The one that I reviewed but I didn't buy. It was Brink, shout out to him. But this one's really good. So if you want a 1/12 scale Vader at a reasonable price, I would say that's the one to go for. And then there was other people that are like, I just want to make a villain shelf, which I thought was a cool idea. But don't forget, between the Hot Toys and the 1/12 stuff, there is that Hyper Real Vader that Hasbro did that's actually pretty good. So don't keep that one in mind. Lastly, the Mandalorian breakdown that I did last week. There were some people that were surprised that I'm not a huge fan of the show. And there were some people that thought I was hating on the show, which I understand. But the point is that like the lowest thing on my Star Wars tier is still something I enjoy more than most everything else. It's like your least favorite slice of pizza. It's not the slice you want, but it's a slice you're gonna eat and probably enjoy. Don't get it confused. If you want to know more about my opinion surrounding The Mandalorian, my plan is to publish a podcast this morning on the Nerd Rage Radio Network with a discussion with Matt H regarding The Mandalorian and my views on it and his views on it, and we have opposing views on it, but we have a good discussion regarding it. So if you want to know why it's not at the top tier of my Star Wars list, that will be a good explanation for you. What am I doing here? I'm bringing the house down, I'll tell you what. Alright, so before we get into this conversation, I want to say a couple things. For one, shout out to the entire Patreon crew. I reached out, I was like, send me any information that you have or any line on information that you have, and folks were on it. I got flooded with information, so thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys. Also, shout out to Dan's who hit me up and got me some information also. I appreciate it. It makes my life a lot easier. So for those that aren't in the know, a rumor hurricane spiraled out of control this past week regarding Fanstoys and the possibility that they may be getting shut down by the Chinese police in regard to intellectual property violation, which would be very surprising to me. But this did get perpetuated by a few things, and we're going to go through it. But we have to start at the beginning. So it started on Monday at 2:45 a.m. on TFW with Diecast from Radio Free Cybertron, who is a friend of mine. We're going to circle back to him eventually. But Diecast, what are you doing up at 2:45 in the morning talking on TFW? But he started a thread saying that a big third-party Taobao seller known as Little B Prince, LBP, stated that FT44, otherwise known as Thomas, would be the last product they would be carrying from Fanstoys, and all other pre-orders would be canceled. This started the speculation that they were shutting down. Now, what doesn't help this is that at the same time, there's this documentary being shown on Shanghai TV about the Weijiang shutdown, the KO company that was shut down. And in that video, there is footage of Black Apple's personal collection, which contained, I think, a Unique Toys Movie Optimus and a Fanstoys Cyclonus. So things started to perpetuate. All of these things are kind of happening at once. It's like the perfect storm of to get people riled up. Now, normally, I would say that this was all baseless and kind of coincidence. These people don't believe in coincidence. They've heard about it. They just never actually seen one for themselves. What movie is that from? You guys did pretty good with the Usual Suspects reference in the Moore's video. A lot of you caught it, but be for real. But I really honestly would have just chalked it up to coincidence. But to perpetuate this and to continue the snowball effect of this avalanche that started, there was some kind of weird stuff that started happening. They deleted all of their posts on Weibo. I don't know if they deleted all of them. I think at least back to like 2013. They deleted a lot of them, and perhaps even the whole account. Then the website went down, and instead popped up this picture. Now, when I saw this picture, I responded to my buddy Todd R. I said, ooh, like, I wonder what it's gonna be. And his response was, well, maybe nothing. Maybe it's just like a general server, like this domain hasn't been bought yet kind of thing. And I was like, good point. I feel like an idiot. Which means it must have been a Monday or something. But both of those things kind of happening in conjecture with the rumors and speculation regarding the Taobao deal, etc., etc. All of these things started to kind of just fuel this fire that Fanstoys is finished. So what happened? The defenders jumped into action. No, that's not what happened. But I wish, in my mind, that's what happened. But the last thing that kind of piled onto this was Kapow Toys saying that they weren't going to do this. They weren't going to carry Fanstoys stuff anymore. The Fanstoys guy, I don't know how to pronounce the name. People on TFW think we're the same person, jokingly, but which was funny. But he chimed in and said, we're fine, just the combiner's taking longer. We're going to circle back to that as well. But that kind of fueled the fire, locked the thread, and everything was cool, right? Or so we thought. So let's start with the distribution element, with LBP, Little B Prince. I don't know what's going on with that gentleman. I don't know that gentleman. But I do know people who have dealt with Fanstoys before on the distribution end, and this is what I do know. Things are changing in regard to the way that they're doing distribution. Things are changing. All of a sudden, when they get pre-order notifications, they're putting caps on how many you can pre-order. Until you get to certain releases where they don't put caps. Not all figures are getting the same treatment. As a matter of fact, I think even on BBTS right now, you can still pre-order Spindrift 2, but most other things are already sold out. So the pre-order cap is a real thing, and it's not the same for every figure, meaning the shoe is not fitting every foot. Not only are the limitations not the same, but sometimes there aren't limitations at all. It seems like Fanstoys is changing the way that they handle distribution. And as a result, that might put a pinch on a Taobao seller or a small dealer. I don't know. But they've been doing wonky things with their distribution. They've been doing wonky things with their production. We've talked about it on this channel before. And my main theory is that they're producing less, but producing more figures. And what I mean by more figures is different figures. So the turnarounds are faster. We're getting a figure, sometimes 2 inside of 30 days, but it average 1 a month, just about, and that could be the reason. I don't know. It's not really the point. The point is that things are changing in the way that they are handling pre-orders. Now, just because that dude's a Taobao seller doesn't mean he's a small seller. And as I read in that thing, he seems to be pretty certified. Like, big, he's a big deal in that world to some extent. So I don't get the impression that he's a little seller. There's plenty of really big sellers on Taobao that you wouldn't want to skip in regard to handling your distribution. You would make sure that you hit that note. But it could be that they're just saying, nope, either A, we're going to go to just big sellers, or B, perhaps they're going direct to consumer, which would explain the change in their website. I don't know. That's speculation, of course. But all of it has to have a reason, because you wouldn't want to limit pre-orders for no reason at all. That's your guaranteed money. If BBTS is buying X amount of pre-orders from you, you already know that you get that up front. All you have to do is produce the product to put in their hand. Whether or not they can sell it is their problem. So I don't know why, but it's something about the way they're doing business that has changed. And it is something to take note of. It's something to acknowledge. Now, there's another thing involved in this, which is dealing with the documentary and how that all got kind of jumbled up. And the thing is that, like, not that it's impossible, right? Stranger things have happened. But this, like, it's China we're talking about. And the element of them cracking down on an IP infringement just seems like it would take a lot for that to happen. KOs are one thing. They've shown that they will crack down on KOs. They've shown that when other countries especially put pressure on them, and I'm not talking about brands or corporations, I'm talking about government putting pressure on them that they will work. I mean, Japan, the States have done it. Like, it has happened. Counterfeit things are one thing. IP infringement, right? We talked about it at length here. They're two different things. I think while not impossible for that to happen, it's far less likely. And then the last thing that we have to talk about regarding this. This is not the first time, even this year, that we've heard that Fanstoys is shutting down. And every time it starts, it tends to start from the kind of same pocket of usual suspects. And I say that respectfully. I know that, for instance, in this case, that Diecast is a Fanstoys fan. He buys Fanstoys product. He's usually well taken by their stuff. I know that about him. And for those that don't know, Diecast is hooked up with Radio Free Cybertron, which is like the oldest podcast, I think, in existence, but certainly the longest running Transformer podcast, and they deserve their respect as well. And I got a lot of love for those guys. I gotta say this before I get ready to say what I'm gonna say. If it wasn't for Kilby, I wouldn't have this soundboard. I reached out to him, I asked him a couple questions, he got right with me, gave me all the information I needed. Him and I had a rough patch at one point. If I could do anything for that dude right now, I would, due to that interaction. Headmaster Don and I talk on Twitter every once in a while and share little jabs and jokes. Melvar already knows what time it is. I love that dude. But they, since the beginning, have kind of had this third party is doomed force around them. And they may be right. But whenever something originates from that crew regarding some doomsday scenario with third party, I always give them the Futurama face. And I say that respectfully because I like those guys. But it's just something that hits my radar. Let's continue on. We heard they were shutting down earlier this year, and then rumors started circulating that it came from the guy from Toy World. Leo maybe is his name. I don't know his name. But that there's some vendetta there. And then I started thinking about Toy World and Robot Kingdom. And look, I'm here to tell you there's something between Fanstoys and Robot Kingdom in my mind. It seems like anyone that's affiliated with Robot Kingdom has had this issue with Fanstoys from the beginning. And I don't know if I'm right. And I know they carry their stuff. But there's more to that puzzle than I know. But I see smoke. And where there's smoke, so sometimes rumors seem to come from that neck of the woods regarding the doomsday scenario from Fanstoys. Kapow Toys, once again, no drama with them, respect them. Their website is very busy though, I can't make any sense of it. But they've been in the game for a long time, nothing but love on my end. However, this is not the first time that they said they're not going to carry Fanstoys and made some statement about it. Then a couple months go by and they carry Fanstoys again. And that's their business, that's their prerogative. I don't run their books and I don't look at another man's pockets. But what I do say is that as a fan and a spectator in this community and a member of this community, when stuff about third party on the negative end, specifically Fanstoys with some of it, happens from some of those circles, it tends to make sense to me as this is just part of the recipe or ingredients in dealing with these circles. And that's not unique to them. It's the same with me. If something comes out that's a certain way that lines up with what I'm doing, people are going to say, well, that's his shtick. That's what he does. So let's start moving into wrapping this up and concluding this, and I'll tell you how I feel about it at the end, and I'll tell you the questions that I'm asking at the end. For one, I have a couple connections over in the third-party world, right? With companies that you would least expect, trust you me. I bet if I put it as a poll on TFW, everyone would get it wrong. That being said, I asked an individual over there the first time, had they heard anything? And he said no, and let me tell you something, it would be such big news, there wouldn't be any room to speculate. Everything would start coming out. People would start talking everywhere. It would be such a big shot across the world. There would be no room for speculation. Within 24 hours, there would be more evidence than you could shake a stick at. I feel like that's something old people say. Maybe I'm coming up on 40, Mac. Reading through the thread, I found a lot of people speculating about what I would do. Look, let me tell you what I would do. I would be bummed. I'd be bummed because I'm working towards completing a G1 Masterpiece line, and they're the only ones really making the product to do so. So it would be a huge hit to my goal. I would just narrow the collection down to season 1 and 2, pick up a few pieces that I was missing to fill holes from other companies, and sell the rest for big money. That's what I would do. There's some funny people in that thread though. I'll give it to him. Divine Comedy, shout out to him. There's a few others, but he made a joke that stood out to me that I laughed at. I don't know any of these folks by their little screen names. But yeah, I'd probably sell it. I'd probably sell the stuff beyond what I couldn't salvage for completion. I think a big question is what would it mean? It would probably mean the beginning of the end for third-party Masterpiece. Unless other companies really kicked it into high gear with the kind of throne being dethroned. But I think we have to ask why it would be canceled, for one, and for two, what my opinion is on it. So why would it be canceled? And when I say canceled, I mean why these Taobao dealers, and they're not the only ones, why would they have it canceled? Because that's real. So like, that's the thing, is like within rumors and stuff and how it spirals out of control, there's always a sliver of truth usually somewhere in there. So it's probably somewhere in here. So why would they cancel their orders to these dealers? Or are the dealers canceling their orders to them? And that's a question that's of significance. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it from the Fanstoys perspective. The stuff is cheaper in China, right? These products, these third-party toys, they're cheaper in China. So let me ask you, if you're Fanstoys and you could sell 10 units of something to this Chinese dealer for $1,000 or 10 units to this American distributor for $8,000, what works for you? That's a business component of this that I'm not sure we're always taking into account. If you could sell less for more somewhere else, why wouldn't you? It's a serious question. What is the wholesale price to a Chinese dealer versus an American dealer, a UK dealer, a Canadian dealer, any other dealer? I would imagine it's not the same. So what does Fanstoys gain from those margins? Now, let's play it the other way. You're the distributor. All of these rumblings going around, you see Fanstoys products popping up in the Shanghai TV. So let's play this out. You're a distributor. You're a smaller distributor. You're not BBTS. You're not TF Source. You're just Joe Schmo selling toys. You're getting ready to make an $11,000, $12,000, $15,000 payment to secure a pallet of toys from Fanstoys. And then you see Fanstoys product pop up in a documentary series on a Shanghai television about police raiding toy companies. How comfortable do you feel with spending that $15,000? Ask yourself that. Like, okay, so it doesn't matter how you do it, right? If the people send you if the people are paying up front for their pre-orders, or if you're fronting the pre-order and getting the money on the back end, either way, it comes down to you having to cover that $15,000, $10,000, whatever it is. So let's play the safer route in regards to you're not being held accountable to a community of people that have already sent you their money. They're gonna pay when you ship, right? COD. So you gotta front $10,000. Now, you're going to front $10,000, you're going to sell the toys, you're going to make $18,000 total. Let's say, I don't know, I'm picking these numbers out of my head. So you clear the 8, right? So you're sacrificing 10 up front to clear 8 on the back end. And you see all this going down. Are you willing to gamble $10,000? Would you put out $10,000 of your bank account to secure toys from a third-party company when you just saw their toys pop up in a Shanghai TV special about raiding factories? It's a scary question. I can't afford to just have $10,000 taken out from under me. It's a scary prospect. So there might be more. I don't speak Chinese. I can't read it either. So I don't know. There's a lot of screenshots being shared around and Google Translate and all this. I don't know. But I do know people. And I know that I would not be comfortable putting out 10 grand or whatever it was to secure toys to sell. That's why I'm not in that business. And I could have been. I had the opportunity and I turned it down. I got balls, but I don't have money like that. So look, Hasbro and shutting down Fanstoys and all that, I don't know if I buy all that. They usually turn a blind eye to third-party companies. I think because it's more hassle than it's probably worth to try to prove it. But there are some problems with that too, and that might be a whole nother discussion. But if you look at Quakewave and Shockwave, Laserwave, right? The Takara. If you look at those two and you have to prove in a court of law that they're the same thing, not inspired by the same thing, but they are legitimately the same thing, it's a lot harder to do than a lot of the stuff that Fanstoys has been doing recently where it's almost identical to the cartoon. It's probably a smart idea for Fanstoys to get back towards the Quakewave side of things than this super tune accuracy stuff that they're doing, because if Takara does produce that, that's going to get tricky. I'm pretty sure that most third-party stuff is stylized for a reason. And they sort of only wander so close to the fire as they feel comfortable. And maybe Fanstoys is feeling too comfortable. I take them at their word for right now that they're okay, but I don't know. Maybe they're laying low for a while, and maybe that's a smart idea. Let the fourth quarter kind of settle and get back to it after Chinese New Year. They've put out a lot of figures this year. Do I think that they've been raided and locked down and it's over? Absolutely not. There's just not enough evidence to suggest that. But they're definitely changing, and the question as to why, still a valid one. this stuff is changing so rapidly, the information regarding this. I was just sent an email from Dreadhawk with a screenshot from trans fans who said that they have information suggesting that the pressure that Hasbro put on distributors during the Unicron fiasco with Zeta, that they're now putting on companies in regards to Fanstoys. So while they can't do anything with the Chinese government, what they can do is say, look, we will no longer distribute Hasbro products to you for you to sell if you continue to sell Fanstoys products. Most people want to carry Hasbro products because they offer such a wide, diverse group of toys across so many genres that most toy distributors can't afford to 86 the biggest toy producer in the world out of their options for sale. So the stuff's changing, and there's like, that's as good a theory as any. Lot to take in on this show, on this episode. I'll be reading the comments if there's something that you guys think is worth extrapolating to another video kind of solely onto itself, because there's a lot in this one. But as long as the stuff is still up on BBTS and TS Stores, all the big dealers, as long as the pre-orders are still up there, it means that nobody has told them to take it down. And if nobody has told them to take it down, my guess is they're still in business. As like a flat tax kind of statement. So, hope for the best, expect the worst. I think we're alright. It's easy to panic. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.